Hey, it's Mimi from HeyMimi.com again. In my last video, I talked about my favorite types of dies for making your own business cards out of some heavy-duty material. I had an aha moment when I was watching my last video, and that was when I was talking about my perfect die would be a 2" by 3.5" standard business card square edge dies, but that it would be clear like this so that you could line it up on your cardstock and cut out exactly the portion of the paper that you want to cut out. However, I would love to have a die that doesn't have any of this, just has a single square edge business card in the center. And so while I was watching that video where I was talking about how that would be my dream die, I also talked about how I dropped this on the ground. And when I was watching it back, a light bulb went off. Hey, wait a minute, I basically have part of my dream die right here. I did a trial run of cutting this. I cut this and it worked just fine. I lined up what I wanted to see here. I used some washi tape, which is low tack tape, to tape it down, and then I just put it back in its little box here and sent it through. So that worked great. It is tedious. However, my whole idea about these business cards is that these are cards that you only want to make a dozen or two at a time, because maybe after you pass those out, you're going to want to take your phone number off. It is kind of labor intensive, but people who are in a handcrafted field take pleasure in that kind of thing. So I don't mind that. Basically, I just want the weight of the paper and I want the precision of a die cut. So I did write to Sizzix company about getting something like this made, so I'm waiting for that quote. It's taking a while. While I was watching that video, I had that aha moment that I can take this apart and use it like a clear die. It does still have to get laid back in this because you can see that this backside does put pressure on the metal rule to pop up and cut through the material. So that was aha moment number one. Then I started to have aha moment number two, which was, I wonder if I could take this, pull it apart, take out the cuts that I don't want, and take this out of its shell, pull out the foam, and drop it into something like that. Just if I don't like the answer I get from Sizzix, how much Allison's going to charge to make a custom die. So this is my only one of these dies. I can get another one for about 10 bucks on eBay. So I didn't want to experiment with this die, so I decided to experiment with a die that I didn't care for all that much, or that I don't use very much. I did that with this. I looked online a little bit to see if anybody had ever modified a Sizzix die. The only one I saw was someone who took something like this. It was a frame. It was all filled in with foam, and they wanted to take out the inner frame and just have the scalloped square around it. And so took it apart and took out the inner steel rule so that all it would do would cut around the edge. So what I found out is that it's more difficult with the newer dies. The red dies are the old originals, but on these newer dies, it's made out of this MDF or wood. And so it's a little more difficult to alter, but let me show you what I found out with this in case it helps you at all. That it kind of opens up your options, because if you find an old die that has a shape that you like, but you don't want the little circle out of the middle of the flower, or like with this, it looked like this, and I wanted to try and see if I could get it to cut just the outer edge and not this inner cut. First I picked the foam out. Just messed up my manicure. So I have to suffer for my art. Anyway, so then I took this and I pushed in here to see what would pop out, and the little centerpiece popped out. So then I pulled that out, and I was left now with the inner and outer die. So I just pulled this out like this. But this also comes apart. So I don't even know if I have to, yeah, I do want to do that because I want to take the inner steel rule out of there because I don't want that center cut. So I'm going to take that out and I'll use that for something else. Now these are really super sharp, so be careful. So then I can just reassemble it, and now the steel rule that I want, the cut that I want, is still there. I'll just reassemble this and then we'll give it a go, see how it cuts. And I'll just put all this foam back where it came from so that the paper doesn't get stuck inside. So let's run this through, and I'm very sure it's going to work. And if I want to, then I can do it on the rest of these. If I get an extra one of these, I'll try it on these. I've used these for appliques and then did embroidery around the edge. And a lot of people would rather that these little center circles were not there. So you could pull that out, but I did see a really old blog post from like 2008 or 2009 that said the newer ones that are made out of wood, these do not come out the same way that the plastic ones do. These are ones I really don't use very much, but you can pull back the foam and you can see it's wood underneath, so I'm not sure how hard that would be. If you're not using the die anyway, if it's just sitting around unused because it has more detail than you want, there's no harm in, I feel like this with any clothes or anything. If you're not wearing it, what's the harm in taking a scissor to it before you throw it away or give it to the Goodwill? Alter it a little bit and see if you like it better. A lot of people who get the electronic die cutting machines, they think they don't want to use these anymore. Silhouette Cameo can cut out any shape and size that I want, but it cannot cut it out of plastic or really super heavy cardboard. If you want to really cut through stuff like that, something like these steel ruled dies is the thing that's made to do that kind of stuff. So I'm going to put my paper on top of here, put it on, make your little sandwich out of the cutting plates, and let's cut this. See if it worked. Now you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So here's our die. Here's what we ended up with. So as you can see, they're cutting them out as frames, and because I took that center cut out, now I have a solid. So it worked on this paper. Let's try it on something heavier. Like this flower is something I probably would like to do the same thing with. So what I'm saying at this point is that this is fairly easy to do on these old red Sizzix originals. I don't think they're as easy to do on the newer ones because instead of being molded like this, custom molded out of plastic, they're embedded in like an MDF. So I don't think it's as easy to remove these little cutting rules. I think they're more deeply and permanently embedded into the wood than they are with these plastic dies. Let's try cutting out something heavier. I'll cut this out because we all know what this is. I think this is 0.4 mil. Okay. Let's do that. As you can see, it cuts through that no problem, and no problem. I've got a thick tag out of that, so it cuts through that and doesn't seem to have harmed the functionality of the die. In a die like this, I don't know if you can take this apart. If I could, I would buy an extra one of these on eBay or anywhere else that I could get it on sale. Try to get one for under $10 with shipping. You can find it for probably $6, but it's going to be $3 or $4 shipping. If I could take this apart, I would pop this out of here. I would remove the steel rules for these additional rectangles so that I just have one isolated rectangle. So I would make a template exactly the size and shape of the die out of heavy acetate so that I could set my paper there and line up exactly where I'm going to get my die cut. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, now I have my template. I'm sure there's like a much more elegant way to do this, but I am kind of a hack and I don't like to take the time to do things the really elegant, perfect way. I want to get down to the fun part, which is making my artwork and making my cards and all that. So now I have my template, and then I would draw around here and cut it exactly to the shape of this. So then when I took what I really want to cut out, I would know exactly where to line it up. That's kind of an idea of what I would do with this. However, this is kind of a pain, and so that is why I've ordered two other things to try. One is another Sizzix die that's rectangles number 2, and it is just a single rectangle in the center. I've emailed the sellers of these things, and then when I ask what the actual dimensions of the cutout, I've gotten 3 different answers. So I decided just to spend the $10 and see what it comes in at. I don't know why everybody's so secretive about the dimensions of these things. Then the other thing I've ordered, I'm going to show you right now, that's going to come in about a week, and it is like a serious punch that'll go through up to 0.8, and you can take your artwork, line it up in the punch, see it in the window, and punch it out. It's made to punch out like ID cards out of heavy duty plastic, so it definitely will cut the kind of material that we want, and it will be quick and easy. More of a business card size than an ATC size. However, it's going to be credit card size, which is smaller than a playing card, but 1/8 wider than a business card and 1/8 shorter. Still, I've tested it in every kind of business card holder that I have. It fits in a wallet sleeve, it fits in business card holders, books of business cards that you slide it into the little sleeve, it fits in that. So this is not exactly a business card size, but it's not going to backfire on you by being so large or such an unusual shape that it's going to get tossed and not saved because it doesn't fit in the typical business card. It's not exactly what I want. I'll show it to you when I get it. If it works, great. I may take it to a tool and die place and ask them to cut a custom die that's got square corners and that's an actual 2 inches by 3.5 inches. And if I can get that made, maybe I'll get a whole bunch made and you can order them from me, or somebody who's watching this will probably beat me to the punch with that. If people really want this, I don't know, but I can't imagine that I'm the only person out there trying to figure out a way to do this. Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope that's helpful and not too confusing. I keep meaning for these to be short videos and each topic keeps taking way longer than I expected. Let me know if you've tried something that works great or you've found the perfect die. I would love to know about it. So please share that information if you know. Thanks for watching and we'll see you later.